Oh, kia ora koutou, kia ora ana, malo. Welcome back to all our viewers. We've made it to the end of 2020 and it is our last episode of the series of our Pretty Dodgy panel. Today we've chosen the topic of celebrating success and celebrating success in teaching because we thought, now it's been a tough year for everybody and we did want to end on a good note. So I'd like to just invite our panel to introduce themselves for the last time this year. And let's start with Bruce.
Kia ora, Bruce George from Literacy Aotearoa. I'm the National Curriculum Manager and it's great to be pretty dodgy.
Kia ora. Aiono.
Well, also for everyone, I'm Aiono Manu Faaea, Senior Pasifika Manager at the Manukau Institute of Technology, collectively known as Te Pukenga.
Kia ora, Aiono. Riki.
Tēnā tātou, e te whānau hui mai nei I tēnei, I tēnei rangi Ataahia. Riki Anderson, ringing in from Wairarapa UCOL, and I am the Kaiārahi te Atakura on campus. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Riki. Jennifer.
Kia ora koutou, here from a sunny Aotearoa. I'm the Sector Services Manager for Aotearoa in Christchurch and South Island. Great to be here again.
Kia ora, Jennifer. Te Ataahia.
Tēnā. I am ringing in also from the beautiful, hot, sunny Wairarapa, and I'm sitting here with my Anna, my Pōtiki, who is joining me today for the panel. I am a board member for ACE Aotearoa and the founding director of Leahy Limited. Great to be here and great to see you all.
Kia ora. Thank you for bringing your daughter. She can join in with the conversation, I'm sure. Now, to kick us off, I'm going to ask Jennifer to open us up with our topic, celebrating success and success in teaching. Over to you.
Well, thanks, Annalise. Yeah, it occurred to me that we aren't, we do sometimes forget to celebrate success, and particularly success for not just learners, but for the people who support learners as well. And so I was thinking that that would be good to reflect on the success stories and share with each other, because even though I might read about some of them or hear about some of them, like Aiono I see pop up on my Facebook feed all the time with her sharing of stories, and I think, gosh, that's gone so successful for ACE Aotearoa. Sometimes we just don't take that time. So that was some thinking around the topic for today. I was also inspired because I went down to Invercargill recently to catch up with some of the people down there who are working in tertiary education, and visited a private training establishment who's been there a long time, Frontline. And when I was there in the middle of a conversation with the manager, this bell rang really loudly throughout the whole building. And I said to Nadia, what's that? What is happening? She said, oh, it's her student got a job today. And so whenever the students that they work with there get employment, they ring this bell loudly, and all the staff and all the students gather together and just congratulate, the person who's got the job for that particular day. She said, we're having a great week. It's run 3 times this week. And I just thought that was great. And she went on to say, she said, yeah, she doesn't think, she sort of, really promoted the idea to me. She said, we just don't celebrate success enough. She said, those learners there, and a lot of them are youth guarantee learners there, come in here knowing what they're not good at. They know all the negatives, but then when she sits down with them, or the staff sits down with them and asks them around what they want to do and what they're good at, they just have no idea. So I thought, yeah, even though, we can have those public displays of graduation, et cetera, and celebrations, sometimes we just don't have those conversations and talk enough about the full range of success stories. So I just want to mihi to Frontline and to all the Invercargill people down there that I had the opportunity to visit and to hear their success stories. That's one of the joys for me in the job, is being able to listen and hear that, you know, across the table, the stories from Literacy Aotearoa, from English Language Partners, from YMCA, from, you know, the Southern Institute of Technology, and community colleges, a whole range of tertiary education providers. And it's lovely just to hear their successes, you know, because that's a privilege, it feels, for me, for hearing it. But it's also great that if I can share it in some way, and certainly it's wonderful. I know the providers of tertiary education just feel really proud of their successes. So that was my kind of inspiration for thinking about our last hui today.
Kia ora, Jennifer, thank you, and really appreciate you bringing this topic to us. I agree, I don't think we're, and this year in particular, we haven't taken the opportunity to celebrate the successful stories and acknowledging the agility, you know, almost the criteria of what we've been talking about in our last 6 episodes around moving from pretty dodgy to better dodgy teaching, and how that's exemplified in a range of different contexts, environments, and with different teachers, kaioko, tutors, educators. So who else would like to share?
Yeah, I'll jump in at this point. Thanks, Jennifer, for opening up the discussion and the conversation on this. You know, there are a lot of things that were ringing in my head. It wasn't just in reference to your story about, you know, bells ringing when people get jobs, but in terms of the line of work that I'm in, it's definitely a lot of the train the trainers. So my job is providing strategic advice to lecturers and tutors about how they can improve their praxis for our learners. And so I have a kind of an indirect pathway, I guess, into learner success. And I think from that perspective, success that I've experienced at MIT with my colleagues who are actually at the front line has been to really have some careful unpacking of their teacher actions that lead to that success. Because I really want to make it clear to them that, you know, you're the adult in the room, you're the expert, you know, what treasures can you unfold in our learners to make sure that they have that line of sight to success? Because we can't really experience that success as people if we don't know, can't entertain the idea of what that might feel like. And it's kind of those progression points that lead to that success. So I'm interested in the pathway to that, and getting people to understand that, you know, you're entitled to success. You may not have experienced that before, but as a learning institution and with other learning providers, we can collectively provide that platform for you. So it's really a much more nuanced in that space. And I guess probably the most recent success I've had with staff has been providing a platform for Māori and Pacific lecturers to actually consolidate that learning and share with their colleagues. So I recently did a workshop which was focused on cultural intelligence and just getting them to really think about, you know, what it is that they have in their schema that they may not have, or that they may have in terms of strengths, but are not actually, you know, activating that within their space. And, you know, I was meant to be just leading the whole thing, but I wanted to provide a Talanoa platform so that they could, you know, get more interaction in that way. And I think that was the first time that's happened for staff in that space. So we did an evaluation survey and they came back to us saying, oh, wow, I've never really had that chance to actually talk to people and have actual proper learning conversations about success, and helping lecturers and tutors to see that, you know, if they modify their assessments to actually feature the strengths of our Māori and Pacific learners in their natural habitat, say in their natural communities and living environments, in their lived realities. And if we can reflect that in our industries and what we do, then that's where this genesis of natural success will come about. And I think the more that we collaborate and are more transparent and open in those platforms, then everybody wins. So yeah, you know, sometimes you got to kind of hold on to that in terms of the line of sight if you're kind of bogged down and distracted by, you know, the systemic racism of stuff that might be out there, but we can't afford to let that get in the way of, no, there's some really awesome pockets of stuff happening out there. We just need to bring that to the surface a lot more and celebrate those small steps. Because for me, success is success. You know, it's a matter of scale for anybody looking at it, but you have to be able to be willing to celebrate those moments when they come about.
Malo, Aiono, thank you. Riki. Any success stories from the Wairarapa, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have to be honest, because I'm a little, as we all are, it's a hard time of year. So even it was a good challenge to start thinking about the success stories. And I just wanted to mihi to Jennifer for mentioning Waihopai or Invercargill. So I grew up there and in a little town called Aotearoa at Riverton, and at secondary school experienced a lot of pretty dodgy education. So it's good to hear that they're on a journey towards pedagogy down there. I've been out of there over half of my life now, so a good 23 or 4 years. It'll always be home. I'll always be a proud Southerner, but yeah, definitely what did not set me up for a lifetime of success. So celebrating that they're on a better trajectory. So thank you for that, Jennifer. Look, I'm in very similar work to Aiono around, I'm kind of te hapai or working behind the scenes to ensure success. And a huge part of our role in that space is not filling all the gaps we see. So allowing people to make mistakes and build their own agency or their own mana motahaki or their own rangatiratanga about how they fill some of these gaps. So it's just, I guess it's more about keeping them accountable to that rather than doing it for them. And it's challenging work, it takes a lot of patience, but I guess it's small things like this morning I was transcribing what we call a student focus group session. So it's essentially a wānanga with targeted questions around the values that we hold dear in our teaching and learning, aka Te Atakura, and gathering, trying through dialogue to gather evidence of those values being embedded into the pedagogy that the students have experienced. And it was an awesome feeling to be transcribing voice of a group that's just about to transition out into the industry and comparing it as I'm transcribing to what I picked up from the same group at the start of the year, and all of that beautiful stuff like them talking about their self-determination and their lecturers' ability to keep the expectations of them really clear and high without doing the work for them kind of thing. And also the boundaries that the lecturers had in place around, this essentially what I do with the lecturers is giving them the gaps and the opportunities to make mistakes, but make mistakes together as a group in a safe space. And look, all of these students are going on to clear next steps, whether it's straight into the industry or further study. So yeah, I guess that's my long-winded way of saying there are lots of things to celebrate around the success of the culture within our environment here. And Te Pukenga is continuing to be, create more of a momentum around mobilising Māori and Pacific voices, and that's kaimahi tauira. Yeah, so, and I think that's a thing to celebrate too. Yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora, Riki, awesome. Bruce.
Yeah, I think in terms of celebrating, it's really reflecting on what became our norm this year, going into lockdown. Well, one of the things we found as a national organisation is that we do karakia each day at national office. But once we went into lockdown, we opened it up around the mutu. So we had 50 odd people having karakia every morning. And it was that sharing that whanaungatanga. And because a lot were working in isolation, and it was actually really nice to have that and have that whanaungatanga over, online and things like that, and sharing stories and all that. So I just, celebrating our tutors and all that for hanging in there. The other thing is, in terms of our learners, because one of the things I wrote about celebrating is we should celebrate every day, that your learner turns up, that your tutors are prepared, that you have an awesome day, all these things. So to me, every day should be celebrated. And the stories I hear from learners over this year, you know, I celebrate their resilience, you know, because in terms of dealing with literacy and numeracy, they have to do an online course, and they have, you know, whānau issues, job issues, illnesses, tangihanga, losing jobs, all those sort of things. And it's really difficult to read those stories. But for me, it's like celebrating that they haven't given up, that they're still hanging in there. And to me, that's a huge celebration in terms of what they're dealing with. So, I mean, when I had learners many years ago, there was lots of things to celebrate, but I think this year had just opened up a new norm for us, and also made us rethink about, you know, what learning is, and, you know, the ones less fortunate that can't go online to work, you know, or to learn, you know, what about them? Do they get left further behind? So as well as celebrating, also still critical about what things are happening, but yeah, very different times.
Me taki, Bruce. Te Ataahia.
Kia ora, I'm back. Hello everyone, it's lovely to be here, and it's so beautiful. What a great idea, Jennifer, to talk about positive success stories. I'm really enjoying the conversation. A lot of what's been said are, you know, are shared experiences of mine here in Wairarapa, both in my own business, but also through Aotearoa. But one thing that comes to mind when I think about, you know, particular success at this time and in this period of time that we're going through, is I've really seen a shift in the way people are thinking about how to collaborate and how to share resource and skill and experience much better than we've ever done before. When we're being more mindful about what's already at our fingertips, particularly on the ground and at the community level. I'm really seeing a shift in the way Wairarapians, those locals of us here in Wairarapa, are starting to think about, you know, actually, do we need to go there if we've got it here? Do we need to provide this if XYZ down the road is doing that, you know? And it's just becoming really beautiful to see, and that networking and that parallel of work, it's just, yeah, I can sense that very soon we'll be thriving again, only because we're having to think outside the box, become a bit more creative. And that's actually in itself a success story, is that really that pushing of the mind and that expansion of the way we think. So that's been really exciting to see. Again, closer to home for ACE, I've really enjoyed the way, in particular, your team, Anna, has really adapted to the way we work online. You know, it wasn't easy, but we were super fast at clicking on to how we did it. We made sure it was quality, and we just got the mahi done. And I'm sure you're pretty exhausted at this time of the year because it's been a full-on few months, but it's thanks to all that hard work and that really quick thinking, and again, that creativity, that we've been able to actually provide a lot of work for our colleagues. You know, I think going through the reflection that we went through during lockdown, we as practitioners, if you like, as learners ourselves, we're starting to realize the gaps in our own knowledge. We're starting to honor that we too need to feed ourselves and feed us up with beautiful, you know, new learning. And that's been really fun. So during lockdown in particular, one of my own kind of success stories was seeing the number of people pop up on my Zoom sessions. You know, it wasn't just a 20-odd person in the room situation. At one point we had about 70 participants in a session, you know, and it was just so it was so connecting. You know, we were all over the place in different spaces. Some of us had our dogs licking us, and some of us had our babies jumping on us, and it was just lovely. And to have that intimacy of learning during a time which is tough, and get through it. And we had some great feedback, and I too just really enjoyed being able to do that, you know, because there was a lot of feeling of isolation during that time. So yeah, a number of things, and I'm just really loving how this conversation's going. You're right, Jennifer, we do forget And sometimes success doesn't have to be a big thing. They can be small things that happen regularly, or they can be really, abnormal, out of the blue things. But I just think how awesome that we're taking this time while we're winding down to really say high five, everyone.
Ai, kia ora te Ataahia. Thank you everyone for sharing. I do want to move our discussion around success. It is a consideration, I guess, for what we're celebrating, but also to give a shout out to the people that we know. Who are those successful teachers, kaiako, educators who come to mind for each of you? And it might be this year. We are focusing on this year in particular because it has been a challenging time. And, I want to acknowledge someone from my childhood who retired after 40 years. I went to Richmond Road Primary School in Greyland, Auckland. And this person, he was the caretaker. His name is Tu Romia. And, for me, he epitomized everything. Now that I'm older, now that I work in education and in community, I look at him. He retired last week on the weekend, and he gave 40 years of service to Richmond Road Primary School. So, you wouldn't have known that he was the caretaker. He was everywhere. He was the sports coach. He was our cultural advisor for every Pacific Māori nation that you could think of. He was our Uber driver before Uber was a thing. He was probably the counsellor, not just for the tamariki, but also for the teachers and the staff of the school. And, so I don't think it's a coincidence that I've ended up in the sector that I'm in, adult community education, really looking outside of the system and celebrating the contribution of successful people who are in education, and how I view or want to acknowledge that they are educators as well. And, the caretaker of all people. And there's been thousands of kids who have come through that school, Richmond Road Primary, who remember too, and who attended his farewell in Auckland. I didn't get to make it, but he was someone for me who really epitomized what success is. Someone who cared, someone who was involved in not just your learning within the four walls of a school, but someone who was also outside of that institution that we call education, who really cared about children and their learning and their experiences of being at school. You go through primary and you think, yeah, this is really cool. Then you get to high school, you're like, what happened? Sorry, that's my own experience. But my point is, I guess I'm putting the challenge out to each of you. I'm all about naming and really giving acknowledgement to those educators that we don't hear about. Not everyone will get the Tertiary Teaching Excellence Award. Not everyone gets the ACE Aotearoa Annual Award for educators. But we know they're out there. We've been privy to experiencing their magic, and for me, being online, I've had to sit on Zoom to provide a platform for some of our organisations around the motu, because they don't have any money to even pay for the Zoom subscription. So what do? We say, oh, we'll use ours. And then we sit there and we listen for 2 to 3 hours with our community educators who are working their magic. If ever you wanted leadership and seeing how te ao Māori was used as a conceptual framework in our mahi, then we got to get out there and hear it. And I felt very honoured to sit in some of these spaces with these amazing kaiako who you would never know existed until we get privileged to be in those spaces with them. So yeah, shout out. I'm going to open it up now. Who would like to name? Who would like to start by acknowledging who are the people that you believe have shown?
I'll jump in there, Annalise. I want to sort of connecting to what Te Ataahia was talking about. I really do want to acknowledge all of the educators that I work with on our campus. My tone at the start of the year was, A, what are you going to do different this year? And B, how are you going to become more collectively focused? And, next minute, we're all in lockdown, which kind of forced us to experience that whole concept of, you know, collectively responding to a common situation. So I think post all of that happening, I've seen a big shift towards a much more collective approach in so many ways. Now that some of our more sort of individualistic minded kaimahi have experienced the need to collaborate, stay in communication, and they've lived through it. Now they're able to kind of make sense of it more in their mind and how the importance of and how it fits in for their work. But specifically, we had a lecturer start, Leah Renny, incredible, brand new to teaching, started the week she was meant to start. She was one of the first people that flew back into New Zealand and got put into quarantine. So she was in the very, very first, so that put off her start. She ended up starting mahi during lockdown, never taught a day in her life, being, you know, orientated through the computer and all the rest of it. And she was one of the few lecturers, or the first lecturers, to successfully facilitate a lesson online through what we call Collaborate, which is similar to Zoom. Yeah, she's just so inspiring. I can't mihi to her enough. What she achieved as a brand new lecturer starting during the pandemic. Just so inspiring. And, you know, meanwhile, comes out the other end, keeps nailing her teaching and got incredible results. Had a very large proportion of Māori and Pasifika students in her class, and every single one of them succeeded and either went on to another tertiary course or back to school. So yeah, incredible. Leah Renny, you're amazing.
Ora, mihi tū, Leah. Who else?
Yeah, I've got something to share. I was thinking very hard about good teachers, and probably similar to you, Annalise, there were very few in my day. But then I realised my greatest educators were my parents, yet they never went past high school. Their drive in terms of getting us to go to school, getting us to have an education, and also underpinning that whānau, you know, is the main thing. And then that followed with my older brothers and sisters, so second youngest of 9, and they gave me enormous amounts of examples of what they, you know, what to do and what they can be good at. So they were good at sports, education, art, politics, and activists. Shame no musicians, there was a generation gap there. But having those as an example growing up, I think they were my main teachers really, when I really reflect on it, that, you know, I want to be like this brother, and then get a bit older, maybe that brother, you know. And when I look at all of us, we're all individual. Family is very important, and we can see that by the way our kids are brought up, and the way we come together. So yeah, I think for me, celebrating, lucky enough to be in an awesome family that are able to share all their love, not all their food, they're a greedy lot, but lots of love in the house. So yeah, I think like my dad would say, that we were blessed.
Oh, me taki, Bruce.
Oh, I'll go. Just right off the back of that, Bruce, that's so lovely, because I sat here and actually similarly all sorts of whānau members, connections through whānau popped up in my head. So I do want to mention one in particular who Riki knows dearly too, and it's our Uncle Mike Kawana, who is known probably more widely here in Wairarapa as the kaumātua of Rangitane. And we always joke a little bit because he's actually too young to be a kaumātua, but it just gives you an idea of what kind of mana he carries with him. And this beautiful man is just a giver and a sharer, and he doesn't stop. and he often forgets about himself. And he adores what he does, which is really just that transference of knowledge in te ao Māori, and he absolutely has a passion for te reo Māori. He wants big things for our iwi, rangitane, and he gets work done. He's a koro and a father, and he is a soon-to-be great koro. So he is a busy whānau man, but he always has time for everyone else in his wider iwi whānau, and it's just a really beautiful thing to see him everywhere. You know, he's at every event, he's at every tangi, he's at every pōwhiri, he's at every hui, he's at every wānanga, and he's relentless. So he's always been a hero of mine, but particularly during you know, the hardships of this year, having to create new strategies for our marae, who had to adapt the way they functioned, and having to, you know, look inwards. But also on a personal note, I've had the privilege of going back to study this year, and one of the papers I'm doing is actually at Riki's place of work, and Matua Mike is my teacher. And what's a really lovely little story there is Matua Mike learnt his reo and all the tikanga he knows through my father, and now I'm his student, so we've kind of come full circle, and it's just a really special place to be, because the last time I was in his environment of learning, I was a little bubba, you know, playing with the pens and the highlighters and getting growled at for trying to draw on the walls. So that's one man, Mike Cowan, I just really want to acknowledge and just send out a special shout out to him. The other thing that kind of came to mind was a really recent experience I had where I really saw community ed in action. It was at Reap House here in Wairarapa, and it was a wahakura wānanga. So wahakura are our, for lack of a better description, pepi pods, and they're traditional woven baskets that we would traditionally sleep our pepi in, and they've been making quite a comeback in the last decade, probably more so in the last 3 to 5 years. And we had a lovely tohunga raranga called Jenny Fuhrman here in Wairarapa, sharing her incredible knowledge in weaving, and we spent an entire day weaving these beautiful wahakura. A number of us from community ed, also from the health sector, so we had some midwives there. And what was lovely about the way she taught and shared her knowledge was it was practical, it was fun, it was engaging, and it was all told through pūrākau Māori. So everything we did, we acknowledged the atua, we acknowledged the spirituality that was involved, and we were always mindful of what has happened before us touching this piece of harakeke, you know, all the groundwork that it takes to grow the plant, to look after the plant, to harvest, to prepare. It was, you know, constantly reminding us, and it was so empowering to be in all of her kind of essence. So Jenny Fuhrman would be my second person that I'd like to acknowledge today. And like Riki said, we're really rich at the moment, here in Wairarapa. We're just surrounded by beautiful people. I think it's the lovely weather.
Yeah, bring some of that warmth here. Thank you, Ataahia. Love it. And I did see on your Facebook that you were at that workshop making wahakura. What an amazing experience. Love to do that one day. Jennifer.
Oh, kia ora. Well, so many people now. I'm kind of thinking, listening to you all, I think, oh, yes, there's my whānau, there's particularly my parents, and then, you know, yeah, it's hard to decide, really, because I really wanted to shout out to the team that I work with Aotearoa, and I wanted to shout out to the team of tutors at Literacy Christchurch and Hagley Adult Literacy Centre as well. And I think we're starting with those tutors in Hagley Adult Literacy and Literacy Christchurch. I mean, of course, they had the opportunity through Aotearoa to do some fabulous professional development that was provided by UCOL. So it's kind of a win-win all round, but it's like they were determined. It was 4 sessions, and they were really determined to get through all of them and learn from each other and learn from the people that were sharing their sessions. So it wasn't, I don't think, an easy task because it was a mix of face-to-face and online, and of course some people preferred one and not the other and vice versa. There was time in between where all sorts of personal things were happening, and of course to our country too, from the point of view of lockdown, and of course their learners. But they persevered with it and they completed it, and I like to think that I was there on their last session, I took that, and I like to think that they all felt that they had learned and achieved in the sessions that they had. So not an easy thing to do when they've got other things on their mind this year. So they were just still focused on improving their practice and learning new things. So I really admired their courage and their commitment. And equally the team that I work with. I think we had a head start from the point of view that each Monday morning we already meet nationally online and have karakia and te reo lessons provided by Dr. Joe Torito, and he guides us really well, I think, through that process. So we had that process already set up, and we could connect with each other online and continued that through lockdown. And that really helped for all of us in our own homes around the country. I think the other thing about the team I work with is we're all encouraged to really reinvent ourselves. And I think, you know, like all of you out there, it has been a challenge of what do we do now? We can't meet face to face, we can't do the stuff we've done before. How do we continue to do the work that we want to do to, you know, inspire educators to be even better for their learners? And so I think we did do that. Sometimes, you know, like all of us, there are challenges, but we got there. And I think we did some pretty cool things that I wasn't sure, you know, perhaps was going to be as good, but there were elements that were fantastic, like our online tertiary teaching excellence awards, where, you know, like you were talking about, Aotearoa, sorry, where we had dogs on people's knees and other whānau singing and other whānau gathering around. So we didn't just see the one person, but we saw as much of the whole person as possible. So lots of great things. I personally like the support to be as creative as possible and to be autonomous as possible within the South Island from my team. So yeah, I think there are lots of good things that the team managed to do to keep the spirit and essence of what we believe in as far as Aotearoa are concerned. So big shout out to my colleagues throughout the country. And I'll just finish, and I might even share. I said I wasn't going to share. Oh, it's been disabled. Okay, no, I won't share. No, I just wanted to show his face, actually. But I will talk about him, and his name is Hurihanganui, and he's a lecturer over at the University of Canterbury. And I'd heard about him through another friend who says, oh, you should come over to the campus, and he leads karakia and waiata once a week. So as I say, led this karakia, and of course I was well intentioned, you know, of walking over there or getting there every week, and never did, because it is on another campus, and, you know, for whatever reason, I never made it face to face. But the good thing about lockdown is that I could join, and now he didn't know me at all, still doesn't. I just sent him a request to join, and he let me join, and that was really great. He was so inclusive, even though I'm not a University of Canterbury staff member. For some reason, he let me join, and so every day during lockdown, I could tune in to the 9 o'clock karakia in waiata, and he is an amazing waiata performer and guitar player, and he was just so inspiring. I really felt I connected online in a kind of invisible way, because I was often too whakamā to show my face, because it's like, who is this outsider coming to our waiata? So I would just listen in and occasionally comment, but it's actually reminding me of the challenge that I was giving myself, that I wanted to meet with him and just thank him, because in particular I remember his Anzac Day tribute, because he obviously was involved in the forces prior to his work in education. And he prepared the most moving online Anzac ceremony. He, taught us all the waiata beforehand that we were going to sing in the service, and he briefed everyone. So his teaching was incredible, and I just thought his inclusiveness was amazing because he had lots of whānau join and lots of people from ex-students and students he was currently teaching, as well as staff. But I just want to really mihi out to Hurihanganui, who I haven't met, but I am challenged now publicly to meet him and just thank him, because his teaching and his inclusiveness and his modelling of ways of supporting people and performing was just so impressive, and I, in particular, that Anzac service. So I really just wanted to acknowledge him in particular.
Kia ora, Jennifer. Thank you. So possibly could be a nomination to the Tertiary Teaching Excellence Awards, Jennifer.
Ah, yeah, indeed.
Aiono.
Yeah, I just was thinking about probably two key areas there, like in your kind of personal kind of making up new words here, personal and professional. So I guess in the personal sense, my name being Aiono, it's a lineage thing, right? So that's actually the name of my tupuna on my father's side, Aiono Tavita. And then also want to make acknowledgement of Aiono Whanawhi, who's quite a key, I guess, in Samoan education circle. She was quite well known for her work in Ngangana Samoa and, education and philosophy underpinning, the relevance of identity, languages and cultures of Samoan people. Not just in Samoa, but also in Aotearoa. She was a scholarship student and pretty much raised to, in my family, she was meant to be the epitome of what you subscribe to be as a young Samoan woman. And then getting the title myself in 2016, so there's all these expectations and things wrapped up in a name. And this is part and parcel of why when we do our work with our colleagues and with external partners that wanting to raise their cultural intelligence, this is why names are so important, and to get them to understand why we make a big deal about pronunciation and the meanings of those words and titles that come with family. In a professional setting, I found I just wanted to shout out to just key members of our Pasifika Academic Subcommittee. I think one of the key things that I've been able to do has been to try, and that was a great context in which to first of all connect with as many different lecturers as possible, because if you wanted to be a part of that committee, you could be, which falls under our main kind of academic committee across MIT. And it's the kind of learning conversations in Talanoa that falls out when you gain rapport and develop trust with your colleagues, and then they start to disclose their own kind of research journeys or things that they want to improve. And so these two key people there in that committee that I think, I wanted to shout out to, and that's Miss Sofia Turner, who was a Samoan counsellor lecturer who, up until I met her, was very passionate about wanting to create a Pacific model of counselling, and there's lots of things in the health sector and also in nursing, but she felt that there was a gap in that space. And I encouraged her to, well, if you know there is, let's talk about it and what can you do to improve that space. And so the more conversations that we had, the more she was able to see the relevance of changing programs and introducing methodologies that fit what she wanted to talk about. And now she's, put in research applications for things, and she's talking to the right people, getting into the right ears of influence so that she can realize her vision. And then also to her, well, that will be your legacy then, because who knows how long we last in a place, but it's our thinking and ideas that if they will help future generations of Pacific learners, then that's why we're here in this business of what we do. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of what she's achieved for herself, her own personal success. And Jo Perry is another individual in our School of Education. The thing I admire about her is that she's teachable, not from me. She's teachable in the sense that she's open to everything. For me as an educator, that's one of the key things I think that I find synergy with others is that this desire to learn, right? Like the best teacher is the best learner. So you always have to have that mindset of there's always room for improvement. there's always things that I can do better to help others, you know. So if you have that kind of innate philosophy within yourself, then I feel that whoever you can connect with on that level, you guys can do a lot of stuff together and create that change that you want to see in the world, that you want to see in your workspace, that you want to see in the mirror, first of all. So yeah, I'm just really encouraged by an individual like Jo. She's our new chair of our ethics committee, and just her open heart for wanting to raise success for our Māori and Pacific learners. Like, that's the kind of person I want to work with in every conversation I have with every individual who is non-Māori and non-Pacific, you know, like, what can you do to help my peoples, and how can I help my peoples connect with your peoples, right? Because we're all one peoples. But yeah, so it's gently kind of unraveling the kind of mistrust that can come about, you know, because of media or negative stereotypes, whatever you want to call it. But being that ambassador that you kind of feel compelled to be with everybody can be draining if you don't look after yourself. So surrounding yourself with the right people to make things happen, and just being articulate. And if someone is doing a job, tell them. They need to hear it. You might be the only person in that any given day who will have given them that one snippet of praise or positive reinforcement. You know, I think sometimes as kaiako, we actually need to remember to say that to our peers, colleagues, you know, man, it was an awesome thing you did. And it could make all the difference with them continuing to have that relationship with you and to be part of that forward momentum that you're wanting to see with everybody. So shout out to everyone who's trying to make a difference, and please connect with the right people to make it happen. Yeah.
Malo, Aiono. Oh, thank you, everybody. Love hearing about success stories from your corners of the world, but I really want to mihi to each of the people that you have acknowledged today in our panel. They are always invisible, you know, or they only cross paths with us in a certain space and time, and it's nice that we've been able to acknowledge them in this space and under the kaupapa of from pretty dodgy to better dodgy teaching. So on that note, we're going to start to wrap up our last episode for this year. Keep an eye out for us in 2021, whānau. All going well, we want to get our pretty dodgy panel in person, which would be really, really cool. So that's the plan, is, you know, all our atua, please just give us even one shot in the new year to come together in person. And, you know, let's flash mob our panel somewhere random and talk about teaching, and just grab people off the street and say, hey, how was school for you? What's learning like? We'll talk about teaching with everybody and anybody, and it would be nice. I think we appreciate it more, the opportunities that we get to meet face to face and in person, kanohi, to have a talanoa about something that we're all passionate about. And I also want to acknowledge each of you in your own right as educators for the mahi that you do. You know, you were chosen pedagogy with pedestrians. Oh, thanks, Aiono. You and your little wisdom gems, dropping them left, right, and centre. We're going to have all these quotes. It's part of our marketing campaign, I think, next year for our panel. Yeah, thank you to each of you for being a learner and a teacher and a kaiako in your own right, wherever you go, those that you connect with. And I'm just going to invite us as a quick round, because we are getting into the festive spirit. One, because we can see the end of the year is near. But also we want to leave some love for our whānau in education and Aotearoa, to keep them inspired over the break and, you know, motivate each of us and everybody as we go into a new year. So one quote that I'm going to share, which is obviously about teaching, is those who dare to teach must be willing to learn. And I heard that so many times that I learned to love that quote, probably because it was short and I could remember it, but it was actually Bruce, your boss, who would always share that that quote. You know, if we dare to teach, we must be willing to learn, and that's been recognised. Aiono said that today as well. So that's a quote from me. Rapid round. We'll go to Bruce. He's got the least to say. Very quickly, what's your quote, Bruce?
I'd just like to acknowledge you, Annalise, and Viv and Ace for putting this on and getting together awesome crew. Been awesome. My quote is, "It's a privilege to teach and never lose the passion for learning." And I don't know where I got it from, but I think it's somewhere in here.
It was Faaea.
Bruce Faaea.
From Arorangi. Okay, thanks, Bruce. Who else? Who has a quote ready to share with us?
Mine's about looking after ourselves. And it's one that I've been using a bit recently with talking about hauora wellbeing and ensuring that educators look after themselves so they can do the mahi that they need to do. It's just simple, but it's just, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think at this time of year, I know for myself, and I know for many colleagues and whānau that we're all exhausted from pouring out, and it's like we need to restore and get that energy back again so we can keep doing the work that we love doing. So kia ora, thank you Annalise, thanks Viv and Ace, Aotearoa, and all the panel. It's been a real pleasure, thank you. And I look forward to meeting together face to face. Crazy.
I love that idea. Thank you, Jen. I'll go next because it's really connected to Jen's actually. During our sessions over lockdown, we learned about matariki and maramataka, and I'm really mindful right now that while 1 year is ending, 1 year is only halfway through, and that's our Māori year. And it's a really short piece from a waiata, which is called Te Waiata o Matariki by Rahera Davies, and it's Matariki e ara e. So really simple, matariki, rise up. And what I love about it is it talks about the rising of matariki as this new dawn and this new beginning, something to look forward to. But what was really precious about our dawn ceremonies and matariki rising this year is matariki itself, one of the 9 stars, was shining the brightest when I saw her, and a lot of our experts have said the same, which means matariki is connected to our well-being. So you're absolutely right, Jen, let's put well-being first, and may we rise up as a people going into 2021. Tēnā tātou katoa, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Tēnā koe te Ataahia.
Kia ora, oh, aroha.
Oh, you go, Riki.
Are you sure? I was just, something that's making me really happy at the moment is our beautiful marae whakaoriori is going through a bit of a refurbishment. So we've started with the whakairo on our whare te amorangi, and the carver, Stephen Kawana, is starting with the teko teko. So on our teko teko, it represents Popoto and Tamatea Riki Nui, so 2 significant tipuna of Rangitane and Kapanunu. So really, that's bringing a lot of joy and hope to all of our hearts. And that is my segue into Stephen as brother of Matua Mai Kawana that Te Ataahia was talking about. And man, there's not enough words in the world to summarize that man, but it did get me to think of my favorite whakatauki, mā te manaki I te tāngata e tu ai te mana. So I really think that encompasses Matua Mai Kawana, but it's also a good whakatauki to remind us all to, you know, manaki each other, you know, you know, manaki the people and stand in that honour or that prestige. Yeah. Kia ora rā tātou.
Kia ora, Riki. Aiono.
Yeah, one of the, because I like making up little phrases, just okay, which one should I pick? But one that stood out for me over all of our sessions we've had over the year has been one that I love, which is reach before you teach. So just as a reminder for our kaiako for next year, you know, that's something to bear in mind, is that develop those relationships and connections first with our learners before you bog them down with the boring stuff that you want them to learn. And just and because we're in Aotearoa, and you know, we've got the summer coming up, or we're in summer, and you know, holiday season looming, and just to kind of paraphrase that particular phrase of reach before you teach, but something that I really challenge all of our educators to do before they start teaching again next year will be hit the beach before you teach. Okay, so go get some tan, get some vitamin D, get out there, soak it all up, and go with your glow next year, 2021. And hopefully, yeah, everyone will have a well-deserved, well-earned break. Spend time with your whānau or just other people that you love that may not necessarily look like you. Yeah, just, it's been a real crazy year this year, but as everyone's expressed on the panel, I've been really glad to be part of this group, coming online every month and just shooting the breeze and really sharing our love and passion for teaching and learning in our communities. So yeah, kia ora Annalise, kia ora Viv for putting this together, and kia ora Jen for sharing all your slides. I always look forward to what slides is she going to share this month. So yeah, I'm really glad to see it's a really lovely guy's face there that you shared, and we're not going to cause any trouble there in that regard. That's a whole nother online panel, Beauty and the Beast, later on. But yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Whafte lava.
Malo Aiono. So te Hurunui Clark, yeah. We've dropped a lot of names today, and some of us have even put their face out there. But Mihi, I want to see in 2021 that we've dropped those names this year. Next year, let's see if we can acknowledge them even more. But thank you again to each of you for taking the risk to jump online with us. And we've done six episodes, so this is our last one for the year. That's not the end of our Pretty Dodgy panel. Keep an eye out for us in 2021. Go well and enjoy the festive season and raumati. Ka kite.